man, I love Tinder. I think it is the best app that was graced by Jesus Christ towards humanity. I'm going religious with this shit. The reason I like it is that anyone who spent time with girls, especially in high school, and even later on, but mostly in high school, you keep hearing about these things like you should like women for their personality, right? Shouldn't look at the tits, shouldn't stare at the tits, shouldn't complain if they're fat, shouldn't complain if they're... It's the personality that's really important, right? And you need to be a good, decent human being and stop judging people by their looks. Well, let me show you an expert from a YouTuber called the Independent Man.
Complements them. But this whole focus on douchebags is a bit of a red herring. The real problem with men, according to the women who actually use Tinder, is that they're not attractive enough. On Tinder, men swipe right almost half the time, women only 15% of the time. And remember, this app almost exclusively focuses on how people look. It's not about douchiness. This study showed that the bottom 80% of men were competing for the bottom 22% of women, whilst the top 20% of men were competing for the top 78% of women. Or put another way, a man of average attractiveness would be liked by less than 1% or 1 in 115 women on Tinder. Now, that study had a small sample size of just 27 women, but similar results were found on OkCupid, where 80% of men were rated below average looking. But it appears the women of Tinder are completely fine with this asymmetry of attraction, since their focus is on the men-provement of douchebag guys. From this little experiment is that if you're a good-looking guy, you can get away with saying just about anything. Being a complete douchebag is absolutely no impediment as long as you have model looks. So ladies, if you don't want douchey behavior, perhaps you shouldn't encourage it. Or better still, maybe you should just drop the act and stop pretending you care so much about douchey attitudes and just admit that you make your decisions almost entirely on the basis of looks. And that these little tools are not so much to deter douchey behavior, but more to do with letting guys know that they don't measure up, which they probably know already given the rejection rate for most. And of course, we should always remember it's the poor, oppressed women's that have to live up to unrealistic standards of beauty.
Now, of course, every single man under the sky knows this, because we do interact with the ladies. But some of the ladies seem to live under this bubble, under this delusion that is also embraced by a lot of mainstream media and a lot of other magazine and bloggers, saying that it's only women that need to live under the unrealistic beauty standards. And it's quite funny, you know, because if you're a woman with small tits, you can put some socks into your bra and all of a sudden, you know, you're presenting. But as a man, if you're not tall enough, that shit, you know, I'm lucky that I'm not a midget, I'm not a dwarf, but I'm not a tall person either. I'm somewhere in between. But I did have a friend at university, and he was incredibly smart. He was very funny as well, but the guy's head would reach my chest, you know, that was a little bit of a problem for him. And there were like a lot of hot girls, and I know how they were talking about him. They were like, oh my god, like he's so amazing, he's so funny, just wish he was taller. Like, just wish he was taller, yeah? Just wish I could see his face if he would have been a fly in that conversation. But anyway, like, why am I bringing this up? It's like, well, it's kind of annoying when you live in an era where the culture just talks about, oh, we can't have sexy women in Mortal Kombat because it's unrealistic beauty standard. Oh, look at Gillette. You should like fat women. Like, you shouldn't complain. You shouldn't say anything about it. And meanwhile, you have Tinder, right? Which got itself into a little bit of controversy a couple of days ago. You see, instead of tweeting on April Fools, they actually tweeted a little bit earlier. I think it's because of time zones or something. And they tweeted the fact that from now on they're going to install this way of verifying the male height. All right. To me, that was really interesting when I read it, because it's like having a way to verify the women's cup size. Like that's always what I used to do when a woman would ask me, like, how tall are you? I would ask her, like, how big are your tits? You know, like, if we're going to have that conversation, might as well, like, get all the necessary details out of the way and then move on to something else. I just find it common sense. It was also like a benchmark. If she gets angry and she starts being insulting because I asked her that after she asked me my height, then it's like I don't even want to go out with that crazy. But You know, like the thing is, a lot of people got upset. Apparently, I don't really know why. Like the fact that your height is really important as a man when it comes to dating, like it is known, Khaleesi. Like, you know, I always thought of men to be a little bit more superior in this regard because they don't get upset and they don't throw a bitchy fit. Like if you're in the mainstream media, like you're a blogger and you throw a bitchy fit that men don't like morbidly obese women, you know, that's called denying reality. That is just crossing your arms and turning your back, you know, to the conversation and not wanting to have an input. You're never going to get men to like morbidly obese women. Just stop it. You know, go to the gym. But in the case of men, I was like, well, you know, men always know that you need to be tall in order to attract ladies. So like, why is this even up for debate? Like, why pretend to get offended? And it's like, I think a lot of people just pretend to be offended because we live in the era of say no to realistic beauty standards. Okay, realistic beauty standards is a bad thing. So why all of a sudden do we have them? It's like, well, because it's a double standard, all right? Like men need to take it, women don't, I guess. But in a way, like I'm going to take it. You know, like I'm playing with the hand that I'm dealt. Then again, I haven't been dealt such an awful hand. You know, don't have a great hand either. Don't have that royal flush. But at the same time, I do have something that I can use to bet with. Now, this also comes after the video that I made where the Mary Sue is mocking a study that finds out that most men aren't having sex until they reach 30s. It's like the number is 3 times higher or something like that. And it kind of makes sense in the world where dating apps are becoming more and more popular. Like back in my day when I grew up, the dating apps you could find were the newspapers. Like you'd pick up a newspaper in order you'd have like all these ladies that didn't get married and they would try looking for a husband or something. And back then, like going to those ads and having to resort to finding women that way was considered incredibly shameful. Like you are supposed to go out basically and meet a woman in real life. They don't go to the newspapers. But nowadays it seems that the dating apps they offer a lot more convenience and it's a lot more easy to just find someone by using an app where you swipe left or you swipe right. It's quite vain if you think about it. Like the most popular app, you know, is entirely based on looks. Women constantly complain that they're being judged on their looks, and yet they're using this app which judges people based on looks. Tells you a lot, you know, about hypocrisy and stuff like that. But anyway, you do notice that a lot more and more people are using the dating apps. And I read an article which I'm upset I didn't save that says it's becoming more and more peculiar, a social taboo actually, to go out and pick up women the old-fashioned way. Like you're actually now supposed to use these dating apps a lot more. It's the same like when I was a kid, it was normal to just go to a person's house and come unannounced, just ring at the door without phoning them in before. Now it's incredibly weird. Like it's very awkward. Even if you're in a relationship, like you still pick up the cell phone and you tell the other person you're coming. It's just as technology advances, you know, like certain things become less common and whatnot. And it's the same now since more and more people are using these apps. And, you know, I do think it breaks relationships in a way because, again, back then, if you were in a relationship, if you had a significant other, if something was amiss with the relationship, if something was going bad, you would try to fix it because you'd think like, okay, if I dump this girl, how will I find another girlfriend? Like it was incredibly difficult. You'd basically like have to ask a friend to introduce you with someone, especially if you are someone that wasn't really great at the whole bar scene, the club scene, you know, like working that. But nowadays it seems, yeah, you have a relationship, things are going bad. Well, you know, you can just terminate it because I'll go back on Tinder and I'll find someone else. I'll just start swiping left and right. It's, I don't know if it's a good thing necessarily, but it is a thing for convenience. And again, I just wanted to show this news because I'm being inundated with articles about unrealistic standards of beauty. Apparently, most women on Tinder want 6-foot guys, which are incredibly rare. As I understand, it's like 20% of the population are 6 foot. You know, like this is actually the realistic standard of beauty. If you're fat, you can still go to the gym. You know, if you have small tits, you can still put a sock in it, as I said. But if you're a guy that's small and is not 6 foot, like what are you going to do? Huh? Like, wear high heel shoes. Maybe this is the answer. Maybe I should support Those Hollywood actors that have their kids wearing high heel shoes. Anyway, right. Let me know what you think. Looking forward to reading from you guys in the comment section.